A college student assaulted the motorcycle club president's 13-year-old daughter and uploaded the footage online, believing his senator father's influence made him immune to consequences. He miscalculated. Thomas was beneath his Harley-Davidson when his cell phone buzzed. Lisa has been admitted to St. Mary's Hospital, and there's footage circulating online that everyone has already viewed. Thomas let his wrench clatter to the concrete floor. What footage are you referring to? Just get to St. Mary's immediately. 60 riders on steel machines trailed their president to the medical center. They discovered Lisa unconscious in a hospital bed, with Linda weeping at her bedside. What occurred? Thomas pressed. Dr. Patterson drew him into the corridor. Your daughter was administered drugs at a gathering, then sexually assaulted and recorded while incapacitated, and the perpetrator distributed the video across the internet. The corridor fell into a profound silence. A silence heavy with menace. Who did this? Was all Thomas uttered. Brad Wellington, the senator's son who attends the university. Every member of the club recognized that surname. Senator Wellington had judges, law enforcement officers, and district attorneys in his control. His son operated beyond the reach of justice. Or so the assumption had been. Lisa regained consciousness 3 hours later. Her first words shattered every heart in that room. Dad, the entire school has watched it. I want to end my life. Thomas dropped to his knees beside his daughter. You will not die, sweetheart, but someone else will. Dad, please don't do anything reckless, Lisa pleaded. Thomas pressed his lips to her forehead. I won't act recklessly. I'll act strategically. That evening, the Steel Demons convened their meeting. Every member was present, fury filling the space like dense smoke. We're all aware the justice system won't pursue him, Thomas stated. Therefore, we address this through our own methods. Tank flexed his massive knuckles. When do we execute the plan? First, we require intelligence. Snake, their technology specialist, began his work. Within several hours, he had infiltrated Brad's entire digital existence. Personal computer, mobile device, cloud storage accounts, everything. Boss, you need to examine this, Snake announced, his complexion drained of color. Brad possessed 43 video files, featuring different young women, all drugged, all unconscious. He preserved them as conquests. He's been perpetrating this for years, Snake disclosed. And examine these text exchanges. Brad had been boasting to his associates. Captured the biker's daughter, the youngest victim to date. Father will resolve any complications as he always does. Download every file, Thomas commanded. We'll require all of it. 3 evenings later, Brad Wellington departed a fraternity gathering at 2 a.m, intoxicated, laughing without concern. His vehicle failed to start. Peculiar, considering it was a new Mercedes-Benz. Need assistance? A voice inquired from the shadows. Brad rotated to discover 15 bikers encircling him. His face lost all color. My father serves in the Senate, Brad shouted. You cannot lay hands on me. Thomas advanced gradually. Your father is not present here. I'll contact the authorities. Proceed, Thomas responded. Inform them you're isolated with the men whose daughter you violated. Brad's hands trembled as he retrieved his phone. No signal available. Snake had ensured that outcome with a jamming device. What are your demands? Brad whimpered. Justice, Thomas answered. They transported Brad to a deserted warehouse on the city's perimeter, the location where problems received permanent solutions. Brad was weeping now, begging for mercy. Please, I have financial resources. My father can provide any amount. Thomas positioned a chair and seated himself facing Brad, who was secured to a support column with zip ties. You administered drugs to my 13-year-old daughter, Thomas stated with unnerving calm. You recorded her. You distributed it across the internet for the world to witness. Brad began sobbing uncontrollably. Please don't take my life. Please, I'll do whatever you ask. Whatever? Thomas questioned. Yes, anything at all. Excellent. You're going to provide a confession. They recorded Brad admitting to everything. All 43 victims. How his father concealed the crimes. Which law enforcement officers received payments. Which prosecutors accepted bribes. Brad divulged every detail like a canary, hoping cooperation would preserve his life. Please, I've confessed everything. Release me now, Brad implored. Thomas rose from his seat. Oh, we're releasing you. But there's something first. Tank and Razor transported in multiple barrels. The odor of tar permeated the warehouse. No, 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 Brad screamed, comprehending what awaited him. They removed Brad's clothing completely, his expensive garments sliced away with blades, his gold timepiece, his fraternity insignia ring, everything that provided him a sense of power. You enjoy creating videos? Thomas asked. We're producing one as well. They didn't apply scalding tar. That would prove fatal. They utilized warm roofing tar, adhesive and degrading, but not lethal. Brad screamed as they coated him entirely in black tar. Then came the feathers from pillows they had acquired specifically for this purpose. Please make it stop, Brad sobbed, resembling a grotesque, oversized fowl. Did Lisa request that you stop? Thomas asked in a quiet voice. Brad fell silent. They documented everything. Brad covered in tar and feathers, weeping, confessing his offenses again while appearing absurd. Now here's the arrangement, Thomas explained. This video gets distributed everywhere. Every news organization, every social media platform, everyone in your circle. No, Brad wailed. That will ruin me completely. Like you ruined 43 young women, Tank questioned. But their work wasn't finished. Razor produced a tattoo machine. Remain still. This is going to cause pain. They tattooed the word predator across Brad's forehead in large black lettering. Permanent ink. Permanent disgrace. You can't do this to me, Brad screamed. This constitutes assault. File a report, Thomas suggested. Explain to law enforcement how you arrived here. Finally, near dawn, they abandoned Brad on a street corner in the affluent district. Naked except for tar and feathers, predator branded on his face, with copies of his confession plastered on every nearby surface. A jogger discovered him and contacted emergency services. By midday, the videos were circulating everywhere. Brad's confession, the 43 victims, the corruption network, everything, but also the footage of Brad tarred, feathered, and marked. The internet erupted. Memes were generated within hours. Brad Wellington became the most humiliated individual in the nation. Senator Wellington attempted damage control, but one cannot manipulate the narrative around 43 victims and a sobbing confession. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was compelled to act. The evidence was too public to dismiss. Brad was arrested that afternoon, not solely for the sexual assaults, but for what investigators discovered when they examined his computer with the evidence the bikers had anonymously supplied. Senator Wellington was arrested 2 days later for corruption charges and obstruction of justice. But the most satisfying moment occurred at Brad's bail hearing. He entered the courtroom wearing a hat to conceal the tattoo, but the judge ordered him to remove it. The entire courtroom gasped collectively upon seeing predator across his forehead. Your Honor, my client was assaulted, Brad's attorney objected. Do you possess evidence? The judge inquired. Brad couldn't provide an answer. Admitting what transpired meant admitting his location and the reason for being there. Bail was denied. Brad was determined to be a flight risk and a danger to the community. In jail, Brad discovered that inmates harbor particular animosity toward men who harm children. The tattoo on his forehead made him an immediate target. He requested solitary confinement. Request granted. Now he sits isolated 23 hours, each day with nothing but his thoughts and that word staring back at him in every reflective surface. The 43 young women came forward after viewing Brad's confession. The trial proceeded swiftly and was devastating for the defense. Brad Wellington received 90 years in federal prison. Senator Wellington received 35 years. The warehouse video was never traced back to the Steel Demons. Officially, Brad was attacked by unidentified vigilantes. Unofficially, everyone understood exactly who had delivered street justice. Thomas visited Brad once in prison. Just a single time. Brad appeared different. Shattered. The tattoo had been partially removed, but left disfiguring scars that still formed the word. You destroyed me, Brad whispered. No, Thomas replied. You destroyed yourself. We simply ensured everyone knew the truth. Your daughter, is she recovering? Brad asked. That's none of your concern. I'm sorry, Brad sobbed. Sorry you were caught, Thomas corrected him. Sorry you're not untouchable. Sorry Daddy couldn't rescue you. The Steel Demons never faced criminal charges. No evidence connected them to Brad's humiliation. Brad Wellington became a cautionary tale. The untouchable senator's son who learned that certain forms of justice don't originate from courtrooms. They come from fathers who love their daughters more intensely than they fear the law. The tar eventually washed away. The feathers were removed, but the video exists forever online. Brad Wellington crying, confessing, looking like a pathetic bird. Every few months it resurfaces, goes viral once again. His shame refreshed for new audiences. In prison, Brad counts the days. 90 years equals 32,850 days. He has served 1,825 so far. Only 31,025 remaining. The Steel Demons still ride, still protect, still deliver justice when the system fails. Because sometimes the law proves insufficient. Sometimes evil requires humiliation, marking, and confinement. And sometimes a senator's son needs to learn that genuine power doesn't derive from paternal wealth. It comes from righteous fury and brothers who refuse to allow evil to prevail. Brad Wellington learned that lesson while covered in tar and feathers, weeping like the coward he always was. The word predator might have faded from his forehead, but it's seared into his soul permanently. That's the consequence when you harm a biker's daughter. That's what real justice resembles. If you enjoy reading stories, visit www.bikersbite.com. Like and subscribe. This is a work of fiction. Vigilante justice, torture, kidnapping, and assault are serious crimes, regardless of the victim's actions. This story is not an endorsement of illegal activity.